Coach, when you're going against a team that has a offensive coordinator that's known for putting up points and scoring quickly, how does that impact your preparation during the week?
None. No. I mean, I'm going against their defense, not their offense. So, no, I mean, we're just trying to attack the best way we can.
Coach, I know you talked about during camp there were some players that you knew or thought were going to stand out during the game and throughout the season. Were there any players this weekend that stood out in particular that you were pleasantly surprised with how they performed?
I mean, our running back room looked pretty good to me. There's a lot of depth in that room, which I think everybody can see what competition brings. Those guys were fighting for reps, which when they run the ball, it shows. We had some receivers make plays. Restrepo's been solid, right? He was solid in that game. I mean, it was one of those games where, they were playing coverage, kind of begging us to run the ball a little bit. I guess they didn't think we could pound them, but and so obviously that was working. So we were going to stick with that until they brought more people down, which they really never did. So. But those guys, I mean, Kobe made a good play first drive. I mean, that was a good play by him. I thought, George did some good things. I mean, we had guys all around that did some good things. It wasn't just one of those nights where you're throwing it all around. Was not a lot of plays to be made because we were having success in other things, and that's just the way life goes sometimes. But I thought they played hard and they moved around fast.
You guys like any kind of pound the rock? Mark Fletcher, making his college debut. Obviously, it's one thing to kind of see him do that on the practice field, but to see him be able to kind of run through and run past other college players, like what impressed you about him? What did you like?
Yeah, he's different. I mean, he's hard to tackle. I mean, he's built for that position. He can take some abuse, and he's hard to tackle. And when he gets out in the open field, he can run the distance, and so he's a special player. Glad to have him. Thought he played well. I mean, I thought Cam. I mean, a lot of the stuff that Cam did isn't going to show up in the stat line, but he was. I mean, Cam's an extremely smart player. He very rarely messes up an assignment. I mean, he knows what's going on, and so he's played a lot of football. He's been around football for a long time, and so I thought he was one of the guys that played really, really well. You wouldn't be able to look at the stat line and tell that, but when you watch the games like we do, I mean, he was one of the bigger reasons we ran the ball like we did.
Don Chaney Jr.'s had a tough time the past couple seasons. Had a really nice touchdown run. What did you see out of him?
Yeah, just what you did. I mean, he's been showing that in camp. He's been competing. He looks really good. He's moving around well. He's taking advantage of his reps. And he needed to do what he did on Friday. And so I thought that he, like I said at the beginning, I mean, that room's got some stacked talent in it. So everybody's fighting for reps and reps in games, but he's doing what he needs to do.
The difference in going from like a Miami of Ohio team to a Texas A&M for them, huge difference, or I mean, will they be
for who?
It's the running backs.
Yeah, I mean, look, A&M is a talented team. We all know that. I mean, you can look at their bodies, and they're bigger, they're longer, they're faster, and so everything's gonna, the sense of urgency at every position needs to improve and has to improve, and so I mean that naturally happens through the course of preparation. Kids know, they watch film.
Even within the context of Miami of Ohio giving you looks where they wanted you to run the ball. Did you attack downfield as much as you would like?
I mean, when I did, I mean, I got a little impatient one time and it got picked. So I mean, it was one of those deals where I'm always eager and I'm always looking to take shots. That's part of my DNA. But I've learned over 20-something years of coaching too that the win means more important than anything else. And so ultimately, if we're having success. And the way we're built, honestly, I mean, people are going to have to stop the run. We're good up front. We're physical. Those guys took it pretty personal that everybody was talking about how physical the other team was, right? And so it's pretty evident from the first play, really, that our guys were pushing them around. And so, I watched that too, and the ebb and flows of games are going to change what you want to do. Now, were there other shots that could have been taken? They were. I mean, and it's not like we didn't have like post routes called at times, but I mean, the quarterback isn't going to throw them when they're not there. And so a lot of times you have those things called through the course of games multiple times, 10, 12 times, and then the ball goes to the flats because they're playing soft coverage. So a lot of times that's not very indicative of the play that's called, of where the ball goes. A lot of times that has a lot to do with the coverage that's called. But ultimately, through the course of the game and how the game was going, you know, I mean, it would have been dumb for me not to lean on those guys, you know, because it was working.
Were you able to kind of hold back some of the offensive playbook for the first week, trying to make a planning on maybe opening up a little bit more when you get a tougher team this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do a lot of things that were even on the sheet last week, and ultimately that was because of, you know, when we got out there. I mean, we started the game in 10 personnel, 2 by 2. And they played it completely different than they've shown they played it. And so that told me something from the beginning, that, you know, that they were going to play coverage all day. And so, you know, obviously a lot of the stuff that I had planned, I just didn't need to go to at that time. You know, there were certain things that I circled right off the bat that I was like, all right, this is the way this game's going to go. And at halftime, really, we pinpointed the 5 or 6 things that we wanted to do the second half, and I think I scored on every possession, or maybe we didn't score on one, but, you know, we didn't do a whole lot through the course of the game.
The extra offensive lineman, that's something you've done previously, or how'd that come about?
Yeah, I mean, throughout the years you've done it, just based on the people available, you know. I mean, you want to get in certain sets based on stuff that they do in short yardage and stuff that they do in third down, and if you don't have those people available, then you do other things. And so, but that's part of game planning and just figuring out what package you want to use in certain situations. And I do think those guys bring an element of point of attack. You know, when you have those big guys up there at point of attack, I think it moves people.
How did you assess the quarterback play from obviously Van Dyke playing most of the game, but also Emory Williams getting his first collegiate action?
I thought Tyler was very efficient. You know, I thought he made a few mistakes. The pick, obviously, you know, I mean, to be quite honest with you, that's as much my fault as it is his. I mean, I got a little greedy on that drive because I was, itching to throw the ball vertical, and I called that a little bit premature, and so he was probably antsy too, and so that's more my fault than it is his. And so, but through the course of the game, you know, some of the things you don't see with quarterback play is there's certain plays that are called that he gets us out of the call because there's certain fronts they're playing, and you know, when they play coverage, I mean, he'll check run at times when there's a pass play checked and stuff like that. So he did a great job of getting us into the right play. And I'll say this too, I mean, because he was probably as eager as I was, but you know, I mean, it probably hurt him at times to check out of those and hand the ball off again, you know. But ultimately, that's what the numbers told you to do. And so, and I thought that was very good for him to sit there and be patient and learn that, look, man, I mean, it ain't all about, you know, throwing the ball 60 times a game, you know, and I mean, it's about getting the win. And, you know, I can't remember off the top of my head exactly it was what, 17 of 23 or 18 of 23. So, and one of them was a throwaway at the end of the half. I thought that play, honestly, the drive at the end of the half and the drive to start the third quarter, to me, was where he kind of settled in. And, you know, that drive, I mean, we had a holding penalty that took away like a 40-yard game by George. And then we pop a run to get down there. And we have, I think, 7 seconds left. And he just understood the situation. You know, the play that was called, you know, had multiple options, but he knew that, like, we were going to have that option or out of bounds. And his first option wasn't there, and he threw it out of bounds, which saved us 2 seconds to kick a field goal. And so I thought that drive by him was exceptional. And then the drive coming out of half was just methodically, you know, he hit a couple quick game plays, we ran the ball down, and then hit a big run. And so, you know, it's always good to score at the end and score at the beginning. You know, that's a pretty good, you know, way to start the second half. But the last drive of the first half was very efficient by him.
The red zone, just your assessment of how you guys did in the red zone, and then the challenge A&M poses it defensively.
Yeah, I mean, you know, trying to think about, you know, the times we didn't score. You know, typically when we didn't score, it was something we did. You know, we jumped off sides a couple times, right? And so, you know, cleaning that up is the bigger process from week 1 to week 2 in our situation. But you want to score touchdowns. We were 4 for 4 in the red zone, but we were 50% touchdowns, field goals, right? So you want to be 75 to 80% touchdowns in the red zone. So, you know, the way I look at games, I mean, that was a below the bar, you know, performance red zone wise. But, you know, one of the reasons was because we inflicted some self-hurt down there too, right? We were a little antsy at times and jumped off sides and stuff put us behind the chains. But ultimately, we did run the ball physically down there, which is what you have to do when the field gets shorter. You know, it's going to be the same way against A&M. I mean, you look at the structure of their defense, and I mean, you know, I think they were #1 in the nation against the pass last year, right? And so, you know, things get tough when bodies are big and they move fast. When you get closer to the goal line, it gets a little tougher.
Obviously, the first thing that stands out about Colby Young is how tall he is, but how much does his combination of height and kind of the speed he showed on that screen touchdown help you guys in the offense? What does it do for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, he's a tough guy to bring down. I mean, he's a big physical kid that can run, and so, you know, that was an elite play by him. But there was a couple hitch routes he caught where it took 3 people to bring him down. You know, which to me those plays show a little bit more to me, because the screen was, I mean, he hit it, caught it, scored, great. You know, that's all fun and games, but he caught a couple hitch routes where he probably should have got 5, but he got 12. You know, that's fighting for extra yards, and that's being tough, physical player. So yeah, very proud of him.
You talked about getting greedy a little bit.
Yeah.
When that happens every now and then as a coach, how hard do you get on yourself? How fast can you get over that? And then I have a second part.
I mean, I think now I get over things pretty quick, to be honest with you. You know, I was more curious to see how, you know, we were going to be on the sideline after a negative play, you know, after adversity. And I thought it was awesome. Like, honestly, I thought that was the best part of the whole game was, you know, I've preached to these guys since I got here of picking up teammates, right? I mean, heck, it isn't really about the great plays you make. It's about the bad plays other people make and what you do to pick those guys up, you know. And so I was very curious when that happened to watch us come off the field and see how the communication was going to be between players. And so you preach something and you get in those situations and you see if anybody's paying attention to you, I guess is what you would say. It was awesome. Man, everybody went over, from O-linemen to receivers to everybody, and everybody was saying the right thing. A very positive interaction. And so that told me something about the group, you know. Look, you're going to mess up. I didn't call the perfect game. You know, that was obviously a play that I would like to have back, and he would too. But it also revealed something to me about the group, which was very positive.
You were talking about Tyler also?
Yeah.
Or are they making him feel better?
Well, Tyler too. I mean, I wanted to see how he reacted too, you know. And so I thought overall, everybody on the sideline was just, hey, move on, next play, right? And so I thought that was awesome.
The other thing I want to ask you was Jakari Brown. Would you like to get him maybe into the game?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're both there to play, okay? And ultimately, I have 4 games to play with both of them. And so I'm going to be very strategic in what I do with both of those guys. And so, you know, people can read into whatever they want to read into, but I got 4 games. And so.
Just going back to the progression of Mark Fletcher, with him still being relatively new to the offense, you mentioned the competitiveness of the running back room. At what point during fall camp did you realize that he'd be so versatile with capitalizing on the way that he did the other night against Miami, Ohio with the inside reads?
Probably the first scrimmage, the first live scrimmage we had was where he kind of popped, you know, and it was obvious that he was going to be a hard guy to tackle.
Coach, can you talk about some of the athletes on A&M's defense that kind of stand out to you and what challenges they pose?
Which ones you want to talk about? I mean,
Whichever
I
one.
I mean, all of them are very athletic. You know, I mean, the people they walk out on the field are elite. You know, they're long, they're fast, their D-line's athletic, they're big, they're physical. Linebackers are long and rangy. I mean, the Cooper kid is, I think, 6'3", 240. I mean, he runs east to west really well. The back end guys, the safeties, tackle well. You know, they get there with mean intentions. So, I mean, we could talk about all of them if you want to, but I mean, they're a talented group. We know what we have facing us, and we're going to prepare and be ready for the task.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, guys.